Welcome to Mosaic this morning. It's so great to see all of your faces. My name is Crystal, and up here with me I have my friends Dave and Clay, Georgianne, Brandon, and Kelly, and we're your worship team this morning. A couple of our friends are out for spring break. I'm glad that y'all are here on a spring break week. Thank you for joining us this morning. My friend Cheryl is leading in the service today, and she's going to share with y'all a little bit about connection cards and welcome you. And
yeah, here we go. Good morning. I did that again. I am so glad you guys came. Either the end of some spring breaks or the start of others, I've heard too. So either way, gold stars for y'all being here today. I'm so happy to see your faces through this light. Welcome. My name is Cheryl Gallarno. I'm the pastor of children and families. Scott and Reagan are still enjoying much needed vacation with their kids, so I get to be here today with y'all, and I'm honored. Now I invite you, would you stand? Let's say hello to each other. Shake a hand, high five. To remain standing as you're comfortable and join us in worship this morning.
From
feeling. Now we come alive in the river. 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 Break open the church doors. Let all the people see. Spring up a well, spring up a well, spring up a well in me. Nothing can stop this joy. Your love inspires me. Spring up a well, spring up a well, spring up a well in me. We come alive. We come alive in the river. 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 Yeah. All right, friends, y'all can be seated for a minute. I have invited the Taylor family to lead us in our liturgy this morning. So as they're making their way up here, I just wanted to share with you a quick announcement. Next Sunday, we are doing a family Lenten workshop. If you attended the Advent family workshop, this is kind of similar to that. And there will be a mission project and like lots of hands-on activities for kids and youth and their families. So if you have kids and youth in your family, we would love to invite all of you to join us for the Family Lenten Workshop next Sunday at 10 a.m. over in the gym right after this service. So also, there's so many other things going on in the church. If you can check your bulletin insert, there's a list of so many events that are coming up that we would love to have you at. And I would love to invite y'all to lead us in our liturgy this morning.
We come together to seek in God, trusting that God is seeking us with open arms.
All are welcome here.
No matter our doubts or questions, where we come from or who we love, even in the chaotic seasons of life, we are loved by God.
All are welcome here. We believe that everyone is a child of God. Every age, race, gender, identity, ability, and creed, all are beautifully and colorfully made and of sacred worth. All are welcome here.
We affirm that God is a good God, who lifts the oppressed, loves the vulnerable, and is open to all. So we choose to have open hearts, open minds, open arms, and open doors to God and to each other.
All are welcome here.
Thank y'all. I also want to take this moment to invite kids to go with Jamie if they're involved in choir. This is the moment for that. And then we're going to continue to worship together this morning. Y'all are welcome to stand or sit, whatever you're comfortable with is cool with us. Let's be quiet for a moment and listen. Let other voices fade. Just listen. God is here. Let's draw near.
are open, pour your love on us. We are open, you gave breath to us. So give it again, we are open to you.
Speak a word to us. We are open, pour your love on us. We are open, you gave breath to us. So give it again, we are open to you. Speak a word to us. We are open, pour your love on us. We are open, you give breath to us. So give it again, we are open to you. Speak a word to us. We are open, pour your love on us. We are open, you give breath to us. So give it again, we are open to you, God is here. Let's be quiet for a moment and listen.
Then God said, "Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." God said further, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, "I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and to bring them up out of the land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppressed them. Now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" God said, "I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Maybe you can see me over here. Yes? Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here this morning. I am so glad, so honored to be here. I'm Cheryl Gallerno, in case I don't know you, the pastor of children and families, and Scott and Reagan are out on spring break with their kiddos, and I am so glad I get to be here to preach with y'all this morning. And this is one of the best topics for a children's pastor to get to preach. I feel so lucky. It's one that we love to teach our children. It's one that we talk about. I'd say it's right up there probably with the top 10 children's pastors' favorite stories if I were judging that right. I want to back up just a little bit in the scripture, just a couple of verses back from where David read. Thanks, Dave. At the very beginning it says, "Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, 'I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up.' When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called out to him from within the bush, 'Moses, Moses.' So Moses, he's been living in Midian hiding, I would say, for almost 40 years. You see, if we back up the story a long ways, he fled from Egypt. After killing an Egyptian and hiding his body, this Egyptian was beating up one of the Hebrew slaves, and Moses saw it, and he ran over to intervene and help the slave, and he ended up killing the Egyptian. And so he hid the body, and then he runs, because he doesn't know what to do. And so 40 years have passed, and Moses is living a fairly simple life. He's raised his children now. I would imagine that he was feeling pretty comfortable and settled in his mundane and familiar life. He's safely, he thinks, out of Pharaoh's reach. And he's out there in the wilderness, working for his father-in-law, Jethro, watching over his flock of sheep. He's alone. He's focused on the task at hand. He's keeping the sheep safe, guiding them to find food and water and make sure, just as every sheep herder would do, that none of them will stray off, right? He wants to make sure they all stay together. And then that's when it happens. Moses sees it. Right in the middle of this deserted area, a shrub appears to be on fire. Very much like the one we have right in front of us in the image on your screen. Moses makes the conscious decision right now to turn aside. His curiosity takes over, and he looks away from the sheep that he's been so carefully tending to. Now he says, I must turn aside and see what's going on. So I was thinking about this part of the story. That's why I wanted to back up, because this is a really important part of the story. This is fire. I was very excited about this week. I was looking forward to the fire at the altar. I didn't know what cake was going to do. It's even more beautiful than I had imagined in my brain. And there's something about fire. It has this effect on a lot of us. First, fire is so stimulating. It's so beautiful, right? It sparkles, it crackles. Research has shown that watching fire has this multi-sensory calming effect, which can even lower your blood pressure. So as I was thinking this week about this fire and how much we all love fire, I went in search yesterday because I couldn't find the one we had at home for a torch. I ran into a church member at the Ace Hardware store, and he was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I'm just shopping. I didn't want him to know I was searching for a torch because I didn't want him to know I was going to do fire at the stage. And so you can't see it very well because it's so bright up here, but I was practicing all day. It's just mesmerizing. And I've done this for a children's sermon in the sanctuary, so it's even safer in here, I feel like. And so I just kept doing it yesterday. My husband said, what did you get that for? I said, just because it's cool. And I wanted to have it because it's mesmerizing. And this is I searched it on the internet. It's the only thing I went to the store to find. I found it. I bought it. I was so proud. I did not tell that man at the church. He'll see it in sanctuary, I'm sure. So it's very exciting. Fire is just something that draws us in. We want to know a little bit more about it, right? And this bush that was on fire, it was very spectacular. It was burning, but it wasn't being burnt up. And then there's this messenger, a messenger of God in the midst of the flames. See, God sees that Moses has turned aside to pay attention. And then that's when God speaks. God waited for Moses to be ready to listen. So I wonder, how many times has God tried to get Moses' attention in the past? But Moses wasn't ready. I mean, he said, okay, Moses, I've tried subtle whispers, I've tried these little hints and attention grabbers, and nothing is getting through to you. It's been 40 years, so let me try something just a bit more dramatic. I'm going to put a bush on fire, right? Sometimes that's what we need in our lives, is something extremely dramatic to catch us. And I was thinking back to my own story. I never, ever, ever intended to go into ministry. It was not something I planned to do. I was happily teaching school. I was a fourth grade math teacher, loved it so much. And my husband and I were members at a church where I was probably the number one volunteer, right, that does everything in the children's ministry. And our children's pastor resigned, and she was leaving to move to another church in another state. And the church said, hey, Cheryl, since you're here all the time, would you be willing to help out and step in? And I said, yeah, I would love to do that. Thank you so much, I'll do it. And I'll come after school sometimes, and I'll do it on the weekends. And by, this was in the end of the school year, and so by the fall, I'm sure you'll have the person that's meant to do this job. And they said, okay, great, sure. And so the fall came along, and I would go, and I would meet every Monday with my mentor. Her name's Stephanie. And she would meet with me every Monday, and we'd talk about the things that went over the weekend and how things were going at school and balancing both jobs. And every time I would see her, she would say to me, has God spoken to you lately? And I'd say, no. And she said, Cheryl, I really think this is where you need to be. And I said, no, I love my job, and you guys are looking for the right person. And the whole school year went on, and I was doing the children's ministry thing part-time and doing school. And I met with my principal for my summative at the end of the year. And he said, how's that thing at the church going? And I said, oh, it's good, but they're going to find someone. And he said, I need you to know that every time you talk about your job in ministry, your face just lights up in a different way. He said, I know you love this job, and you do a really great job teaching, but there's something about the look on your face you get when you talk about your job over there. Stephanie was saying, has God spoken to you? And I kept saying, nope, because I wasn't listening. I wasn't turning aside. I wasn't paying attention. I was waiting for God to, I really want to be one of those people where God says, Cheryl, and he calls out, right? And I know exactly what he's saying. But sometimes that's not what God does for us. God was in the burning bush, and he instructed Moses to remove your sandals as you are standing on holy ground. What had been this most common ground for Moses for many years has now all of a sudden become extraordinary. Standing there with his shoes off, he's transformed, and now Moses' life will never be the same. He was so afraid and overwhelmed in the moment that he physically had to hide his face. I was fascinated at this part of the story. Here he is, been hearing about this God of Abraham, God of Isaac, right? He's been hearing these stories his whole life, and all of a sudden he's the only one in the Bible that we are known that is to come face to face. And I think that's such an interesting phrase, face to face. So this is what the face of God looks like in this story. And when Moses realizes where he is and the magnitude of this moment, he has to look away, right? Because he's so overwhelmed and he's so much in fear of his inadequacy in the moment, just like all of us are in moments like, I can't even imagine what that would be like, right? And so I think here comes the best part of the story. This is my favorite part of the whole story. I think it's where we can all relate to Moses, right? Where there's this man, and he listens as God begins to say, I have seen my people in misery, and I know they're suffering. And I would bet that Moses is thinking, oh, good, great, God finally gets it. Okay, yay. We're on the same page here. And then God continues, I come to deliver them from the Egyptians and bring them in a place of flowing with milk and honey, the promised land. And again, Moses is probably thinking, whew, finally, something's going to be done for these people. Moses is in complete disbelief because now he hears God say, now go, I am sending you. Wait, what? I can only imagine what Moses was thinking. He was waiting for God to say, I've got someone else in mind here. I'm telling you my plan so you can go tell them. And all of a sudden God says, nope, you are the one. I've picked you. How can I do this? Who am I but just an ordinary man? And God's only response is that I will be with you and you will not be alone. So for me, this story, it shows us that even in the middle of our everyday lives, we can be called to do extraordinary things, y'all. Moses didn't want to do this. He didn't have faith in his own abilities. He had been hiding out in Midian for over 40 years, trying to move on from what he had run away from in Egypt. And so I was looking ahead and reading on in this story, and in chapter 4 of Exodus, Moses is still standing before God's presence in the burning bush, trying to explain to God, while he's not the guy for the job, right? He's there trying to plead his case, like, this is not me. I am not an eloquent speaker, he says. I kind of talk slow. And God just says, well, I'll be your mouth, and I'll teach you what to say then. No worries, I've got that covered, right? And still, Moses isn't buying it. Why are you choosing me? Please, God, send someone else, is what Moses says. It can't be me. I need you to pick someone else. And for me, this is the most frustrating part. It's the most interesting and the most frustrating part of this encounter with God. Moses is humbling himself before the burning bush. He's scared. He's not ready. He really thinks that there must be a more equipped person for the task. And I really want to pause and comfort Moses. I really want God to pause and comfort Moses and tell him why he can do this. This is what I want. That's why I was frustrated with the stories I was reading. If we look to this God, we talk about this God who is with us and will comfort us and give us care and be right there in our moment when we're troubling and when we're frustrated. And we want God to do for Moses what we want God to do for us in our lives when we're struggling and when we are facing something that we can't imagine. And God doesn't do that. God looks past that. And he doesn't say, okay, here's why you're qualified. Here's why you're the one that needs to go and free the Israelites. He doesn't start listing Moses' great attributes. He just remains constant, right? God just remains constant. God says, you will not be alone. So Moses prepares to go and get ready to do this really big thing. He's finally figured out that God is not going to give up on the plan. And so Moses says, okay, all right, here's what I have to do. I'm going to walk back down and I'm going to figure it out. So I was thinking there are times in our own lives where we're challenged to step up when we're not ready. And just like Moses, we may feel led to do something that it takes a really long time. We are creatures of instant gratification now in this time. We talk about it with our children all the time. Once our boys were old enough to have cell phones, they figured out that by the touch of a button, they could figure out something immediately, right? And they don't want to have to wait for answers and wait for things to take a long time. And so when I was working on the story, I thought, I want to find a burning bush. I want to find a burning bush picture that works, and there's a lot that you can't use and permission things. And my son, my youngest son, who's still in college, has taught me how to use ChatGPT. And it's a very fun program. And I can't imagine ever having gotten through college 30 years ago without ChatGPT. It's amazing that we did that now, and this is the thing now. And so I went into ChatGPT, and I was like, dear ChatGPT, would you please? And Mason said, that's not really the way you do it, Mom, but I typed it in very kindly. Thank you so much. Would you please create this burning bush picture for me that doesn't show the branches to be burning up? And then it said, okay, well, it's going to take me a few seconds to do this. And I thought, that's interesting. I thought ChatGPT was so instant. I had to wait for ChatGPT to create my picture. And then it says, okay, well, now I have it, and I could change your image, and I could make it more sanctuary appropriate and have it a dark. And I was like, yes, please, would you do that? And thank you very much. And ChatGPT and I had this very lovely conversation about the awesome burning bush picture that came up for our lesson for today. And I just thought, if only Moses had ChatGPT. Well, okay, how's it going to end? How's this going to go? Right? But Moses' story reminds us that our journey, it's going to be difficult. The outcome may not be exactly what we set out to do. We may not even see the end result. There's a man named Jonathan Larson. He's a famous composer and playwright, and he worked to create the award-winning musical Rent. Some of you may have seen it. While he was working on it, he was struggling. He wasn't rich, he was very poor. He was waiting tables to make ends meet and working really hard to get this play to come to life. And I'm sure some of you may have heard this story that just a few hours before the premiere of the off-Broadway, it was going to go off-Broadway first, show was about to go on, he tragically suffered this aortic dissection, and he died. He never even saw his dream become a reality. But Larson's legacy, it lives on through his musicals. He's inspired many other artists, such as Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I know y'all know, famous for Hamilton, and others like In the Heights. And Miranda even credits Larson for helping to pave the way that led to his own huge success. So Moses, he was called to lead the Israelites out of Egypt and into this magical place called the Promised Land. That was the whole thing that God was calling Moses to do and telling Moses, you're the one for the job. And it sounds so glamorous. And this is where I, as the children's pastor, struggle a little bit with this story. It's this beloved story that we all hold sacred. But it's also this really hard story. Moses and the Israelites now begin on their journey, and they're going to wander for another 40 years. So he's been wandering out in the desert with his sheep for 40 years. And now God says, you're going to go. You're the person. It's going to be great. I need you to go and do this. God did not say it's going to be great. God said there will be times of trouble, but Moses might not have chosen to listen to that, as we choose not to listen to that, right? And so they're out in the desert for this extra 40 years. And as we learned last week from Scott and Reagan's sermons, these Israelites, they were grumbling, right? They were complaining. They were tired. They were scared. They were thirsty, thus the rock and the staff and the water, right? And many of them even lost loved ones along the way. This journey was nothing like Moses had imagined that it could be. And then here's the spoiler. And it's one very significant part of this story that I wrestle with. And we don't talk about it as much when we talk about Moses and the burning bush and the glamour of it all. Moses didn't even make it into the Promised Land. In Deuteronomy chapter 32, God takes Moses up to the top of a mountainside after they've been wandering, and they're getting very close. They're right on the outskirts of the Promised Land. And God takes Moses up there, and God says to Moses, although you may view the land from a distance, you shall never enter it, the land that I am giving to the Israelites. Although you've done all of this work, although you've struggled and worked and found things out about yourself and these people that you never wanted to know, you're not the one that's going to lead them in. And I have struggled with that, and we had a really great discussion. I'm in an Old Testament class, and we had this really great discussion when we got to this story in the Old Testament about was this punishment or was this a blessing for Moses? And sometimes we see things in the moment as a punishment. Something like this I would have seen like, why are you doing this to me, God? I'm the one who's been leading these people. You said I was the one and I didn't want to be the one. I said no and you said yes, so I went. And now I'm not even going to get to go. And that was the discussion we had in our class. And our professor, she was so great. And she was like, no, you're looking at it wrong. Maybe this was a blessing from God, because we know when the Israelites get into the Promised Land, it's not all glitz and glamour to begin with. There's even more struggle. And Moses has done his share. And Moses has done more than God even imagined of him. So some of us, I would think, are feeling like you, too, are living in the wilderness right now, right? Things could be uncertain for you. What you're hoping for is taking way longer than you ever imagined. It's hard, and you might not even get to see the end result. One of my greatest joys in this church is to do funeral services, memorial services, and I love them. I love to walk with the family in their time of loss. I think it is extra holy. It's very sacred ground, such as this. You learn so much about a person. Often the services that I've done here, I haven't even known the person, but I learn so much. I try to reach out to the family, and I want to get to know this person that we're going to honor through their service. And one of the things that I've come to love the most about it is there's so much that this person did in their life that they might not even see. Right? If they had been looking back, they might not have even known. And when we get to the memorial service, we get to share all the amazing tasks and feats and legacies that this person leaves behind. And they didn't even get to see the end result. And it's really kind of magical to honor them in that way. And so I was thinking, maybe this is what God is trying to tell us. If only we will turn aside and listen, right? What we do in the middle truly matters. We aren't all at the beginning of our story, and we aren't going to be able to see the end sometimes, but we can rest assured that God's promise is true and that we are not alone. That's what we have been talking about throughout this entire wilderness story, is that God is going to go with us. And we may not even realize it at the time, that it's what God has set in place, right? So one of the things that I share with people, I'm very, very, very proud of this in my history. I am a huge Survivor fan, the TV show. I love it so much. Actually, when I came in for microphone, here you go, Jerry, I was very excited when we walked in and they were doing the microphone check, and I did the whoa, way, oh, way, oh, way, oh, way, as you walk into tribal council. That's the song that goes in my head. And the first week of Lent, when we walked into the sanctuary, both my husband and I turned to each other because the torches were going and the rocks were there, and both of us kind of went, whoa, way, oh. It did the little Survivor song. It was really an inside joke. And one of the things about Survivor that I love so much is that I tried out for the show. And if you don't know this already, I can't believe you don't, because I tell everybody. I'm very proud of this moment. And I was picked by a casting agent to try out and to interview with a bunch of the other casting agents. And I even preached a sermon similar to this on Survivor, and they wanted to watch that. And it was such a fun process. I didn't make it on the show, by the way, so don't go Google my season. You won't find me. But I did get pretty far, and it was a very fun process. Jeff Probst is the host of the show. And he has this tagline, just as every tribe mate enters into tribal council for the very first time, he says, grab a torch, dip it in the fire, get the fire, because fire represents your life. When your fire's gone, so are you. The bush was burning, but it wasn't consumed by the flames. So God's promise is to be with us, and that promise will never end, right? The fire that we see in the burning bush, it's transformative. It's never going to burn up or burn out. The presence of God can meet us in the most unexpected places, where we're lost, where we are doubting, and where we feel extraordinarily ordinary. I do believe that God is at work in the middle of our journeys, and what we are doing matters very much. It's up to us, right? It's what are we going to do next? How are we going to listen? How many times has God sent a messenger to each of us before we're ready to turn aside and ready to listen? Thank you very much. Amen. Oh.
So much like Cheryl, I was very resistant to doing church work. Had exactly zero interest in doing church work. And when I was invited to audition for the job here to be, a worship leader, I was like, no thanks. But I will help you try to find the right person. I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go to the auditions and offer feedback. And I did everything but audition until finally Jonathan at the time asked me, what's keeping you from doing this? And I was just thinking, well, I don't know. I don't play an instrument. I had 100,000 reasons why I didn't think that I could do this. And he was like, yeah, I don't think those are valid reasons. Maybe you should audition anyway and just try it. Like, what's the harm in trying? So I did, and that audition is one of the most holy experiences of my life. Like, I will never forget it. It was so incredible. And, what we've done in this church is beautiful. I'm so thankful for this place and for what it taught me about myself and for how far we've come and how far we have to go. But also, when I think about that story, those moments where it feels like the clouds have parted, I've learned something, I know what I'm supposed to do now, are so rare in this life. I think I've had exactly one. And it doesn't mean that God is not with us in the seasons of waiting. In fact, I think that people have been trying to co-create heaven on earth for all of time, and we've yet to see that happen. But God is still with us in the waiting, and we are still called to create heaven on earth so that someone else may inherit it someday, even if it isn't us, right? So with that, I'm gonna ask y'all to do the Lord's Prayer with me in just a second, but we're gonna sing a song together after that called Take Courage. And this song is exactly about that. It's this invitation to take courage in the seasons of waiting, in the seasons of wilderness. And y'all are welcome to sing along or to sit back and listen. But before we get to that, I want to invite you to pray with me the Lord's Prayer that we've been taught. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Steadfast, my soul. God's in the waiting. God's in the waiting. Hold on to my hope as my triumph unfolds. God's never failing. God's never failing. Lead me on, and I won't forget your great faithfulness. You finish all you've begun. So take courage, my heart. Stay steadfast, my soul. God's in the waiting. God's in the waiting. The future unfolds. God's never failing. God's never failing. And you who hold the stars and calls them each by name will surely keep your promise to me. I will rise in your victory. And you who hold the stars and call them each by name will surely keep your promise to me that I will rise.
Amen. We come now to our time of offering, and I'd like to remind you, if you'd like to give online, you can go to fumcdenton.com/give, and you can pull down any of those drop downs and give online. Also, please remember that we care very much about our congregation and about each other. And if you want one of us to know about something that you're going through, maybe an upcoming surgery, or you just want to reach out and talk to one of the pastors or staff members, there are QR codes that you can also scan. Plus, you can go to fumcdenton.com/care. Please also remember that we have lots of ways for you to plug in at this church and join in many small groups and groups outside of Sunday morning as well. So please look at the groups guide there or go to fumcdenton.com/groups. And before we go, I must give you an update on our Easter extravaganza coming up. In case you were wondering, because I'm sure you were waiting every moment for this, our goal, don't forget, is 4,800 eggs. And as of Thursday, before I left, we were at 1,847 eggs, and that is 2 weeks from today, y'all. So we are almost there, but look, I think now we're way past, 1,847. We must be at least 2,000 with these eggs in our bucket. So you too can add to the total. If you haven't picked up any eggs, you can drop them here at the church, or you can go to Amazon and have them sent here. And please go to the Sign Up Genius to sign up and volunteer if you'd like to be part of that. Thank you so much, Crystal. Oh, and would you guys all stand for our closing song for today?
You fed the hungriest among us. You turned the water into wine. You flipped the tables in the temple so that all could get inside. You helped us find the light within us. You found a way to calm the seas, and you sought the ones who were called over, and you brought good news to me. And I'm so thankful for a love that does not change. I will cherish the gift of your grace, and I will sing always of your You carried hope to the hopeless. You healed in unexpected ways. You broke down dividing lines, and you found endless grace. You taught us how to love each other. Ooh, you showed us all how to be kind.
And I am so thankful for all of y'all. Thank you for being here and playing and singing so beautiful. Crystal and I met this week and talked about the songs, and I couldn't wait for music today. So thank you very much. And thank y'all for being here today. And I would just like to say, as you leave this week, maybe be willing to turn away from what is drawing your attention over here and being ready to turn aside and look at what's trying to get your attention. And it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be scared. God's going to send someone to be with you. And maybe don't focus on what's at the end. Focus on what's happening right now and how you're getting through each and every day. Go with God, people of God. Have a good day.
Thank you.